being, and they cannot be able to defend themselves or not even to be able to vocalize what is happening. So I'm just wondering now, because a lot of these issues were brought up with MPD. I don't know if it went directly to your office, but I know personally I've talked with Commander King, and she started on the force with issues that were happening with the females who were then being able to spread out in living residences in the Ivy City, Trinidad area. Because of our area, it became a very hot area that the Jackson community was being directly affected with being sought after and isolated for sexual incidents. So how are you all doing that, and is there community advocacy that is going on, particularly with the Gallaudet community?
Okay, one of the things that the captain talked about, we have a partnership with the college campuses. So we are in communication with Gallaudet personnel. And in fact, I attended at the beginning of the school year, they always have a orientation. So there are different groups, MPD, sexual assault, NBRDC, which is Network for Victims Recovery in DC, and other organizations that the students must attend. So we are getting the word out to the students and making them aware that there are resources available to them if they become a victim of a sexual assault. The other thing too that Gallaudet did that I thought was really interesting, they had a lot of programs for the students that were non-alcoholic related. So I thought that was really good so that the students would not go off the campus all the time to, to have fun, but there were activities on the campus. So one, there were non-alcoholic beverages and they were safe. So we do have a partnership. We are in communication with the college campuses. As the captain says, we have built that relationship. We talk to the public safety officers. So, we do. We put that information out there. Anytime there is a victim, there is always advocacy there for them. Any resources that they need, we ensure that they receive the resources.
Are the MPD officers, and I guess this is more specific, are they getting cross training in signing? Because when you have an incident and you're active in the media, if they're unable to communicate with that victim, is MPD providing language training for that community?
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. That's the deaf and hearing. Yes, we have resources available to assist us to communicate with that victim. Absolutely.
That's a good question. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Any other questions?
How many males assault sexually abused percentage-wise versus women?
I do not have the exact numbers. The different women do report more often than men. Men do not report sexual abuse as often. So the numbers, we have a lot more women who are reporting to us than men.
With the increase of all of the bars that's coming into the DC area, Ward 5, and the passing of legalizing marijuana where you can grow 3 plants in your home, that combination alone, how do you feel about that in terms of will it be an increase of sexual abuse on the rise in the future, or do you see, will that affect it at all?
I don't think that will have an effect. No, I do not think that will have an effect.
Maybe.
Really?
No.
It actually be mine. Detective Wingate, I'd like to know, historically, victims of sexual abuse and assault have been reluctant to come forward because, they often felt victimized twice. Well, are you sure? The women are castigated and, they're somehow made to feel that their manner of dress, they're somehow responsible for someone, assaulting them. Has there been a difference in the training that officers and support personnel receive so that they can minimize, that level of trauma that impedes reporting?
Absolutely. We have the legislation that was passed in 2013, which is the rights of a victim, the sexual assault victim's rights. So our whole process and procedure is geared to victims' rights. So as you said, there's no blaming. In fact, we want the victims to come to us and tell us that they were a victim of a sexual assault, because we definitely want to apprehend the perpetrator. But no, we no longer, there's certain things that we have to provide to that victim. Advocacy, they have to, if they want to. This is all victims' rights. A victim can tell us no at any time. But we as the police officers and advocates must make them aware of what services are available to them. As far as investigation, the detectives are very sympathetic. We're better listeners. And that's our job, is to listen to the victim. So our investigation has changed a lot in how we interact with the victim. It is no longer the victim is to blame. So that, I guess I would call it, that image of the police blaming the victim no longer exists.
Thank you. And can you tell us, what is the recidivism rate for people that are convicted of sexual assault?
I cannot answer that. I do not have those numbers with me. I will share that with the commander, and I'll let her know that that's the question that was asked, and we will get that information to her.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
What about victims who were molested as kids and now they're adults?
They may report that to us. There is no statute of limitation. So, and I mentioned that earlier today, a few minutes ago, but yeah, they can report those cases to us, yes. And we do receive those, and we handle those investigations as if it was a new investigation. It is a new investigation, yes. Any other questions? Well, thank you for your time. Yes, ma'am.
There was an incident where it was incest, like father and a daughter, and would that be considered domestic violence in terms of like which jurisdiction would it fall under?
That is still sexual assault. It's domestic
Can we hear
related.
the question? I don't think everyone heard the question.
The question is, with incest, with a father and a daughter, would that be considered rape or would it be considered domestic violence? It is both. Because of the relationship makes it domestic. But the incident is still a sexual assault. Okay? So we will handle both.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
Yes, ma'am.
You manage both youth and children as well as families?
Pardon me?
Am I understanding you manage juveniles as well as children?
No, the sexual assault unit, we handle cases of adults 18 years and older. Our youth division, investigative division handles 17 and under. However, what I stated earlier, if you are an adult and you were sexually abused as a child, you may report that to us and we will handle the case.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Well, Detective Wingate, thank you.
Thank you.
Captain Dickerson, thank you both. This is a critical issue, and we hope that when, as we continue to report out on these matters, the numbers continue to decrease. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
We appreciate it. At this time, Captain Lanciano,
Yes.
come on up, and your colleague.
Good evening. Sorry we're late. We had to go to the meeting at the AME Church down in Rosedale and so forth. I guess we can stand over here.
Yes.
Lieutenant Harrington will be on power shift. I'm on evenings. Lieutenant Griffin is on midnights. As of this past Sunday, we started the 507 initiative. Basically how we're looking at this to fight crime and then bring resources into the PSA is that we basically divided up 507 in 4 quadrants. So if you take Benning Road and basically 19th Street, we basically have it divided north and south. And so we have 4 cars operating within the PSA, a total of 6 officers. And then what we did is we looked at our high call volume rate. We looked at our shot spotter, robbery, burglary, auto theft. And then what we did is we came up with 10 beats because we knew that we'd get the staffing Tuesday through Saturday. So like tonight, we had approximately 30 people that came into work. They came in from outside of the 5th District, and then we staffed them at these particular beats. Now these beats will change. It's a very, very fluid system. So if we look at crime, the last 7-day trend, we may push out a particular beat. We may move in a beat to give it more concentration. It's very fluid. We're asking input not only from the officers, sergeants, and from us, but we're also looking for the outside agencies that are coming to help Tuesday through Saturday. We actually have a plan to cover midnights. There are little hot spots within 507 that we're covering. There's also on power shift. We actually have 2 officers that currently work power shift, and there's an area which they're going to patrol on mountain bike. There's 2 of them while they're here each day, and they're on duty for 10 hours. They're off for 3 days, and then they're on for a total of 10 hours. There are a number of community events that have already been planned within 507. They start the first week of July, and then they go through a portion of September. Lieutenant Harrington and I and Lieutenant Griffin, we're looking at, we've actually contacted numerous people, and we're actually hoping to start scheduling resources to come in and so forth. Some of the quick little topics that we're working on is that, believe it or not, domestic violence is a high call driver in 507. Within 30 days, we had 143 calls. Of that, 98 arrests. So there were portions where there was no criminal act that took place. There was a dispute within the residence, documented. And then, so we're looking at this because we have found buildings which are a high call rate. So like Lieutenant Harrington and I and Griffin, we're going to be reaching out to domestic violence coordinators to see if we can get their services. They volunteer for the city. They'll actually come into the buildings while we have this big push going on evenings, and that they can actually come in, maybe find some people that might want their services within the building and so forth. Because we'll have the police officers there, we'll have the outside resources. That's just one example and so forth. Right now, we've requested a crime camera for Starburst Plaza.
Thank you.
Thank you. There are operational issues with it. For instance, it can only be activated for approximately 5 days. And then after 5 days, it has to have maintenance because of the way the solar panels work on it. And what it is it will actually record data in that area for approximately 24 hours. So if I'm a bad guy, and I see this police thing with cameras hovering above me, I may want to go somewhere else. Right. I mean, it's just that's what our hope is. Our hope is that it may take other people to say, you know, this is not a refuge anymore. We're also looking into who has ownership with it. Currently, the U.S. Park Police says it's not theirs. The DC Parks and Rec says it's not theirs.
It's CDOT's.
Right. And so we're looking into who 100% owns it, and whether...
If I may,
sure.
It's a DDOT project. We're asking the Department of Parks and Recreation to actually transfer ownership, so that because they have the resources to actually maintain the fountain and the grounds, and so that we don't have to let extra contracts to replace the lights or anything. So it's in the process of being transferred over, and we need it to close. Right. Just like
currently, right now, DDOT does not have the ability, from most of what I know, is to actually put up signs closed after dark. Now, the 2 agencies that can do this is the U.S. Park Police and DC Parks and Rec. They can actually post signs, which the Metropolitan Police Department, as well as DPS and other agencies, can actually legally enforce, because we entered into an MOA years back that basically we help each other out and so forth. So our goal, our ultimate goal, the crime camera is good. Some of the enforcement actions we can't take on the particular property because there's technically no laws being broken, okay? A lot of times people believe certain things are going on, but the problem is our vice units, our street crimes units, haven't been able to validate that because we can't make an arrest unless we have probable cause. So one of the biggest goals and one of the biggest aspects we have going on right now is to whoever has the property, can they please legally, through their agency, post the signs? Because before in the past, we knew signs were taken down, so what we would do is the police would actually put the signs back up. The court said you can't do that. The court said that the person who has lawful authority of that property has to basically put the signs back up. We can't just put them up and enforce the law. We need someone else to do it. We come in, swoop in. That's just one example. There's a whole bunch of little things. We also have offices that are interested in doing community outreach. That means that they'll work with the community, you all, to see what resources we can bring in. They can sort of basically find days that work for the community, then basically have the events and so forth. Again, we're just hitting the ground running since, I think that was two Fridays ago. We worked basically all last week and a smidge before. We have a lot that we know we're going to change. That's the one thing. What we have together is the first draft of 1,000 that's going to be put out, because we know there's a lot we have to change. There's things that we may have missed, which we're going to basically address, and it's going to take time and so forth. We have our vice unit actually has operations going in currently right now in 507. Once those vice operations conclude, basically we're going to take out certain streets within the 5th district. We do that all the time. We have detectives working on various warrants. Once they're signed off on, MPD will come in, will swoop into the neighborhood, and then take those people out of the neighborhood that had basically, burglarized other people's home, committed robbery, etc. The one thing that I could ask you is, if you even have to think twice about making a 911 call, make the call. I would rather have little to no information than never to get that call, because at least it gets the police into that block, that area, and we might stop that person from ever returning, which is a great thing, or two, we might even develop our own probable cause to make a legal stop. But a lot of times, we can't read the minds of the caller. Many times the caller doesn't want to be interviewed, and so forth. Remember, all the orange hats, red hats, all the groups that have ever started in the District of Columbia, because I used to walk with them all the time, because I started here in 5D. Someone has to take ownership. Someone has to take that call and then say, I am willing to be interviewed. I have really good information. I want to talk to the police. We have call-in lines. We have numbers that are put online. We have 911. But we really need your help to take back some of these streets that are habitual problems. We need everyone's help. We really do. That person hanging out by a car that you've never seen that person in the block before, and we want that call, because chances are in 5 minutes that car is going to be gone, and maybe your neighbors, and maybe even a neighbor's friend that just came over, and that car's gone, and so forth. There's a lot where we hope to do, and I know the officers are really excited right now. We've been hitting all the roll calls, talking to everybody. There's certain training that they've wanted. It looks like that's on the cusp of actually happening. A lot of good things, and again, we really need your help. Now, to start off, we're going to have PSA meetings, and those PSA meetings, the first one we're going to have, barring any craziness that happens, because this is the District of Columbia, and our schedules can literally turn upside down in a minute, is going to be April 27th. It's a Monday. You'll be here in this room at 1900. Now, what we'd like to do is move it out to the community. We have a couple thoughts where we would like to have it. So hopefully we can be guests of someone else. It'll be an hour.
You can be my guest.
Okay. And so forth. And the whole thing is that one of the things we'd like to do is it's our meeting. We're gonna basically present out to you, and we want to listen to some of the things you have to tell us, maybe information. We'll have officers, sergeants, and so forth. You see someone you can talk to them and all that stuff. But the more information we get from the community, someone called in a tip the other night. Not only do we have Vice working on, we have street crimes, and we have patrol looking into it. They said some really interesting things, and it could tie into other things. And we're hoping this may pan out. Another little thing that we're working on, the Vice unit is Craigslist. We're finding a lot of stolen things that come through Craigslist, and we're actually setting up our operations. Vice locked up a couple people right at the mall the other day, at the corner of Benning and Maryland, up on the hill, on stolen autos and so forth. We're looking to see if someone will actually sell the police. We do a good job of pretending not to be who we are, and sometimes they'll offer to sell guns to us. They'll sell TVs and so forth. Sometimes we'll buy it, we'll photograph them. We may not have enough probable cause to know if that particular item is the one that's been stolen out of someone's house, but we're going to follow up on these things and so forth. Currently, am I missing anything, Lieutenant Harrington? Okay, all right. Sorry, but and all that stuff. But I started out here as an officer. I love this district, I really do. A lot of changes are going on, have been going on, and so forth. But the only thing I can really say is we need your help. And so we need your help to solve some of the problems and so forth. But just never hesitate to call. If you haven't seen someone in your block and you have to think, should I call my neighbor Alice before I call 911 to ask her opinion? Call 911. Make it, never think twice, make it your first call.
First of all, thank you. And it's obvious that you're passionate and care about the community, which is why we fought to keep you here. Because you were headed someplace else.
Sure was.
Also, I'm very happy about this initiative, and that way I can slow down on some of the emails and the photographs I've been sending you, the chief, and everyone else. We have what I call a zone of chaos, and that is the 700 to 800 blocks of 19th Street, I Street, Bennett Place, and Benning Road. And we need to focus our resources there, and we are really, really ready and waiting for some action. And as soon as you take them out of there, because these are people that come in every day with Maryland and Virginia tags. They show up every day. They work that corridor like it's their job. They leave behind bags and bags and bags. My phone is loaded up. Loaded up, Miss Laisha. That's why I'm on the council members' schedule. Loaded up with pictures of every brand of alcohol imaginable. We did a cleanup with Commander Porter and her team, and we removed 12 bags of trash. And 3/4 of those bags were alcohol bottles and maybe a few pieces of food trash. We're tired of it. They come in every day at 8:45 a.m. They start selling, and they don't leave until 11 p.m. at night, and we're tired of it. So if you knock that out, that zone of chaos out, there aren't going to be too many people left over at the Starburst. And finally, at the Starburst, I'd like Vice to revisit that issue, because those people have taken over the bus stop, that X8 bus stop. They are dealing out there. They don't just come to stand around and socialize. They're selling. So Vice needs to revisit that, but we're glad about the camera. So we will host that meeting, 19th and Maryland Avenue, on April 27th. So we're...
Well, no, the April 27th is going to be here. It's going to be right here in the 5th District Community Room. No, in the future, in May. In May, we're
okay,
gonna,
we got you.
Right,
you got you.
And so forth.
We got you.
But there's a lot of times the police do not have probable cause to make a stop or arrest, and that's been a crux for the longest time. And the thing is that even though people believe certain things may or may not be going on, we have to develop our own sources. We have to develop what the person that called us about and pulling the block. Like, for instance, you might see a person drinking, but when we pull into the block, they're gone. They might be drinking out of solo cups. This has been an issue in every quadrant of the city. But unless there's an alcohol bottle, like on top of a car, and that alcohol presence that's in that bottle resembles the solo cup, we cannot take anybody for drinking in public. It just is the problem. I mean, believe it or not, right now, we have people right behind our building, right up back. They waved to me and they said, "Hey, I'm smoking a joint." and they all started laughing, and they all took a big puff and they blew out. And there was this big smoke.
They pose for you.
Right, but I'm just saying that things have changed in the city, and basically that would have never, so I mean, laws are changing and so forth. But I'm just saying that there was literally just the other night there was a big group of people. They were up on their terrace, and they say, you know, we got marijuana, we're smoking it, they're legally on their property and all that stuff. But I'm just saying for us, a lot of what,
Posing
yeah,
with his open cup of alcohol.
right.
So brazen, posing.
Right, but the only problem is that we cannot legally stop someone for having a solar cup. We have to be able to put together a nexus between the bottle of, let's say, vodka that's open, and that the drinks that other people are possessing actually have vodka in it. That's the dilemma we have. It's sort of just like when someone thinks that someone's selling in the corner. Well, we actually have to see the hand-to-hand transaction, and more importantly, we actually have to be able to stop the person that actually bought the drug to actually lead back to the person who's selling it. And usually there's 5 or 6 people that are involved. There are lookouts, there are people hand to hand. So I make the money transaction here, but then I'm told to walk over here to get the drug, or to walk over to find out where the drug is, and so forth. So there's usually a web of maze of a number of people, and there's actually a lot of lookouts, a lot of stashes of where drugs are, and so forth. If you know, and that's pretty much it. A lot of the things we're trying to do too is if we get lockups in 507 to get stayaways, to where people would actually not be. But again, we don't set the parameters for the stay away. All we can do is request them and so forth, which we usually do. Yes, sir.
Earlier you said you saw someone that's a stranger in your neighborhood by a car. You wanted someone to call in because the car may be missing, stolen later on.
Well, you know, if you've never seen a person in your, oh, go ahead. Yep.
My question
Yep.
is, if you live across the street from a school that has cameras on the school that can watch that neighborhood, if there's anything that's stolen, let's say 25 feet from the school, do Metropolitan Police go into that school and ask to review the footage on that camera to see whether someone has stolen that car or can identify that particular person?
It's up to the
relationship do you have with that school and camera?
Well, DPS, we work with them intimately, and some of the feeds are always stored at a main facility. It's not ever usually stored there. Usually it's stored off-site. Some cases it is. I've been in another number of situations where there's actually police shootings that we've actually pulled the video feed from the school, but sometimes it's actually stored off-site, or it's at least recovered by someone off-site. It's really up to the detective, and based on where the vehicle's parked, whether there's a good line of sight for the camera, or whether the camera's panned. Most of the cameras out that are positioned at a school in the District of Columbia are fixed. No one's monitoring them. So basically they hit angles to see, hopefully not, but like active shooters. When someone will walk into a school with a gun, it will actually capture where they're walking on the property. Then they can be watched. They could actually tap, the Metropolitan Police Department can tap into that live feed and then look where the suspect's in the building to send our active shooter teams in and so forth. But it's all fluid. But in reference to, you may be calling in a person you have no idea that is a child predator, who may be literally waiting on the block looking for a child to walk away from the campus. That's why if you pretty much know everybody that lives on your street and you happen to just see someone odd coming to the block, we would rather get that call 50 times and be nothing than for one time no one to call and then someone's house is broken into, or someone's car's broken into, or their car's missing. Because the worst feeling in the District of Columbia is to come outside and your car's gone, and so forth.
All right, I would also like to piggyback on Kathy concerning how areas, and I'm speaking to Sims, and to add to what you have outlined, we as property owners have started having other property owners post no trespassing signs. And to let you know what we've been encountering is, we got some new crews coming over, they're trying to establish their spot. And they will sit on the stoop, they eventually go up to people's doors, shoot crap, drink, whatever. These will come by, and these are properties that we got signed posted saying no trespassing. And they would just run them off. Now, that doesn't set a precedent because the sign says no trespassing. This is there because they got a call, that we're calling. if you don't set the tone that if you trespass, you go to jail, that doesn't register.
Okay, just
Second, can get you,
okay.
write them all, and you're right back. So I'm having a hard time. Please just chase them all.
But I can answer that. Are you willing, did you tell the dispatcher that I want to prosecute, and then when the officers have them stopped, I'll come outside and I'll identify them, and then I'll basically press charges? Because you have to, let me explain. In the District of Columbia, the police department has no legal right to go on any private property unless a 911 call is present. And we used to deal with this all the time in 6D, and actually a couple of areas over in 2D, and so forth. The biggest...
Can I respond to that?
Yeah, sure.
Well, I'm calling in as a property owner,
Yep.
and other owners are calling in and they're telling me they're identifying themselves as being the property owner. These are landlords that own the property.
But when the police stop them outside, do you come outside and say, officer, I want them arrested, I'll prosecute the case?
If I'm calling in saying that they're on my property, I gotta sign posted.
No, that doesn't matter. You have to be on scene and willing to be a complainant on which we can then prosecute the case.
Is that the same for disturbing the peace?
No, that's different. Are you talking about like noise violations and so forth?
Yeah,
But
well,
let me just hit this real quick.
True.
But let me just address this here. A person who calls 911 that wants someone actually arrested has to make their intentions known, plus they have to be there to prosecute. So they'll actually have to say, you'd have to tell the officers, I called 911, the people you have stopped, I want arrested. And so, because you're gonna see the same people in court anyways, and then you have to follow through. Now what we do is, let's say you say we want them arrested, right? And we lock up 4 or 5 people for being trespassing on the property, right? We lock them up, but then you don't come to court. Then the next time you call for that particular property, we're just gonna run them off, because you've already shown to the courts and us that you didn't wanna follow through with the prosecution. Because that's what we need. To take back these neighborhoods and properties, we need someone willing to be a complainant and so forth.
But the flip side of that, why
Sure.
people don't, is that they feel that they don't see the police enough, because I don't have to live or be in that.
No, I
neighborhood.
understand.
See, so it's a double-edged sword with that.
I agree.
You know, if you feel comfortable enough that on the whim or on the automatic, I'm seeing the police routine, and I'll
Right.
feel comfortable enough that I will be out bold enough to step out and say exactly what you're talking about. But
Right.
when you hit and miss, I'm not feeling comfortable that I gotta put myself in that
Right.
type
Mr.
of position.
Wooten, we fought to keep Lieutenant Gray. Your lieutenant is excellent in 506. And we wanna make sure that he has everything he needs to step it up. Because we don't want you to have problems, because when you have problems, then they cross the street and they become our problem.
Now, here's a perfect example.
We don't want that.
Let's say the police arrest them, you go to court, right? Then what'll happen is they'll put a stay away in that area. So the next time we see them, we don't need you as a complainant. You're already on record, and then we arrest them again for trespassing and they're in violation of stay away. So instead of 1 charge, there's 2, and so forth. Does that help out?
I have a question, or
Yes.
I'm not sure if this is what he's thinking, but I'm thinking in terms of my own residents, they wouldn't be comfortable, trying to go to court or even point the person out because of retaliation.
But we
So-
need it. And so the thing is that,
But that's
one,
where the disconnect is.
but we
like,
can't lawfully arrest someone without a complaint, and that person has to identify someone. It's just like if anyone, let's say I get robbed and Harrington stops a suspect. That suspect will get released in 10 seconds if in fact I can't identify the person who robbed it. Okay? They could have someone stopped that literally matched the height, weight, color, everything. Hat, size, embroidery, whatever. If I can't identify him, they literally cut him loose. There's nothing. As long as there's no cell phone, wallet, whatever on the guy, they will actually pin him back to me. But if I still can't arrest him, they'll only arrest him not for the robbery, but basically taking property without right because he's in possession of stolen property. Because it was just there's a causation between the robbery, the stop, and that they have property on it.
But when you make the call like I do myself, I
Yes.
give description.
Doesn't matter. I hate to say that, we need you to be a complainant. But once you're a
I
complainant,
wouldn't go to court.
you have to go to court.
I'm not, that's not.
Oh, I know.
I mean, that's not some,
And see, that's the hard part, because these communities at this point don't feel as if they can trust the police to protect them. So why would you put yourself out on the limb further, and it's possible that the person can still walk? Like literally, I get the phone calls, so-and-so did this. I didn't actually see it because my residents are just too afraid to place their own calls. So even if I report it, nothing's going to happen. So we might have to change the process.
Could I just ask you, could you give us a card? Lieutenant Harrington and I will talk. We have a community prosecutor here at the 5th District. We'll run the scenario. Maybe we can get you on a conference call one day. We can run the scenario through, see if there's any other tricks up anyone else's sleeves. I'm just telling you straight up, we need probable cause to arrest them. Remember, we're taking the civil liberties from them, arrest them at a property without a show-up or ID or a person to say, those four people I just called in, I want them arrested. And so we just can't act on actually, to give you another one, I'll answer your questions in the back in a second. Even the Supreme Court said we cannot act on an anonymous caller, even if their information, because we have to validate or at least confirm the information that was provided. So we have to listen to what they told us, confirm all that happened, develop our own probable cause for stop. And that came from the Supreme Court. Questions back there? Right here.
This is a funny question.
Yes.
And I know, I brought this up in communication many times over with many.
Yep.
In our community, we have all of our street vendors, our convenience stores, our little pop-up stores, even some of our liquor stores, who are continuously selling Scoobies and other things. How is it this cannot be intercepted and stopped? Because it is so much a part of the same element of folks that we're talking about that just congregate and stay because they're able to go in and make these purchases when it's not illegal to buy them.
Well, no, it isn't. That's the sad part is, it is legal to buy the product but not use it in the context of where it's being purchased, okay? Scooby Snacks is an incense. That incense is supposed to just be like a potpourri, okay? No one said you're supposed to buy the joint rolls that you can legally buy in the District of Columbia, okay? And then take the Scooby Snacks, put it into a joint, and then smoke it up. The content of the bag says it's not for human consumption.
Right.
So the problem is that they market it just like everything else is marketed. Just like, why should anyone in this room be able to buy any bags, any Ziploc bags this big? Does anyone have a reason for you to have a Ziploc bag that big? But back in the day, we could legally stop these businesses for selling Ziplocs and rolls and even all the contraband and paraphernalia that goes along. But then everything was changed and so forth. I mean, wait until the marijuana sites open up in the District of Columbia. Because remember, everything is its next step. Remember, you got to get the laws passed to legally, because you could, they had a seed convention over in 3D. They gave out like 1 million seeds for your stock so you can grow. So I mean, I'm just telling you how, because when I came on, it was all about stopping the drugs, stopping the crime, and we reduced it from like 489 to under the 100 of last year. I'm just saying that a lot of things are changing in the city, and we have to, we took a class on marijuana use and so forth. I would have never thought, as being a cop, we actually had to take a class on marijuana use and how it's being used in the District of Columbia and your contact with people with marijuana and so forth. So the problem is Scooby snacks are legal to sell, but not in the way it's being consumed.
Mr. Kaboom?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Bing, then Mr. Kaboom? And I see Ms. Barnes.
I wanted to state the question the gentleman up front asked.
Oh, with the disorderly, yes. Oh, can someone, was that the disorderly question? Trespassing.
You were saying about a crime being committed.
Yes.
And you say about not coming to court this and that.
Yes.
Let's think outside the box. Let's say hypothetically, a situation like that happens. The person don't come out and confront the person that they call, give his discretion,
let's say you have a camera in that vicinity that's taking pictures of everything that's going on. Even though that person may not come out or go to court or willing to come out and point that person out to you, will the evidence on the camera make any difference?
We wouldn't arrest them on the scene, but what we do is we would apply for a warrant for their arrest. If we had camera data, okay, and we have their information of the stop, we present it to a judge to see if they would actually do a charge of trespassing. But again, we don't make a decision, just like on the street. We don't make any presumptions of anything. We just make the lawful arrest. We let the courts figure it out. So that is a possibility. And so, but again, we only present it. But someone would have to tell us that those people are being recorded right now, and we can identify who they are. But the other problem we have too is that you don't lawfully have to tell us who you are as well in this.
Captain,
a lot of things have
we're
changed.
Gonna have to
Sure,
wrap it up
speed
a
it
little
up.
bit. I need, okay, Ms. Barnes and then Mr. Camus.
Sure.
I understand that public safety is a very critical issue. That's why we've given so much time. And sir, I see you, Ms. Barnes.
Yes.
I mean, I understand that there's cameras around, but I was wondering about the cameras in Common Terrace and Langston. And I understand that how they're being done. But my thing is, if I drive through a camera light, my car's taken, or my tag is taken, and yet still you can't tell me what is being done right in that area from the camera.
What I'll do is, on the 27th, we'll reach out to Housing Police, because we've already made contacts. We'll ask them to be here on Monday, the April 27th at 1900, and they'll talk about their camera systems up at Langston Terrace. Does that work for you? Because a lot of times we don't have answers, but we will get someone here if we can to answer those questions for you. Anyone else? Yes, you mentioned about disorderly.
Yeah, before that, I'd like to commend Commissioner Henderson and former Commissioner Dumas, and Chief Lanier and Lieutenant Gray for coordinating his staying in our PSA. He's crucial for our PSA. Okay, he's a man who cares, he's made changes, he was willing to stay, and I just want to thank him.
Well, he's a great guy. I've known him my whole career.
And thank you for everything that you do.
And the question is, what's it take to enforce the disturbing the police ordinance? I mean, we had multiple calls last night, all night long, that crew was carrying on to
Okay, what's
6
specific
a.m.
address?
1200 block of Sims Place.
Okay.
And I want to know what it takes, and what can the police do, and it doesn't do any good for the police to come down and say, hey, you guys just be off. Because they're back in 5 minutes.
They are.
Okay, now we have residents, I have seniors, I have people with dying from AIDS, I have people trying to work. And they're partying in that street all night long. And selling their drugs. We don't even care about the selling the drugs part. We care more about the disturbing the peace and the littering.
Well, in reference to the noise ordinance in the city, there are a number of quirks with the laws. It used to be at one point that you actually had to be a certified engineer for decibel readings. There's a lot of change, a lot of lawsuits filed because we made arrests and the court said, police department, you overextended your bound. What it is it's reasonable, but the problem is the police have to hear what the caller reported. So let's say Harrington has his apartment and he's got the noise blaring, right? But when the police pull up, no one hears anything.
Right.
Or it's very subtle. So to the police officer and myself responding, I don't find that to be unusual. We're not gonna knock on a door at 4 o'clock in the morning because there was a report that the young fella had his stereo blaring.
This is out in the street.
Gotcha.
I'm talking about.
Okay, but what are they doing specifically? Because
Arguing, carrying on, just making noise.
Disturbing
Partying.
Okay, but see, this is the problem. It's like the police, right? If someone has a radio blaring and the police officer hears that radio blaring in the car when they enter the block, they have probable cause to take action on the noise ordinance, right? But there's nothing to prohibit anyone in this room to standing out in front of their house in a vehicle and talk. But so the problem,
I'm not talking about
I know, just, hear me out though, hear me out. The problem is, what is reasonable? Like, for instance, there are people that are extremely light sleepers. Then there are people that a bomb could go off on the street and they'll never wake up, and so forth.
Captain,
so the
if
police,
I may, I would like to take this opportunity to ask for special attention over
Oh, yes,
Sims
1200
Place.
I'm going to send that out as
Yes,
soon as I get back
and
up
we'll
there.
connect you, because we have
Right.
to move on, but
Oh, I know.
your answers have been very, very comprehensive, and we appreciate, your commitment.
All right.
So, thank you.
So see us on the 27th. We'll be here, and all that stuff. Do you want a question?
Just a quick question. Do you have any information on the big fight that happened at Warren and Levis last night around 9:45?
No.
Kids beating some other kid up?
No. Did anyone call? Did you see the police respond?
I heard that they did, but I haven't.
Okay. Did anybody here call the police? 911. Okay. So I can't answer that question, and so forth. I mean, we do have sometimes kids that get a little ruckus and they will fight and so forth. By the time we get there, it's all said and done, and so forth. But thank you very much. Again, we'll send things out in listserv when our actual meeting will be, and so forth. We'd like to have is the venue you're talking about, is it a large venue?
It's outdoors.
Okay, the only problem is it's gonna be at night though. It's gonna
That's
be
fine, we've had meetings at night, so.
No, I know, but I'd rather have, I gotta think about that, because we really.
We'll take the tent and chairs.
All right.
We've done it before.
I got you, all right.
It works.
I just wanna make sure that
Works.
everybody's there and all that stuff.
They'll be
All right.
there.
Okay, we're all set. Well, thank you very much. You guys have a great night. Remember, never make 911 your second.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we hear you. Public safety is issue number one, and we are going to stay the course until this community becomes as safe as possible. We're going to have to accelerate the pace a little bit. I'd like to ask Mr. Poussin to come forward. HR 57, very quickly. Commissioner Lewis, I understand that your community has come to a resolution regarding your business. We're very happy about that. Can you give us the highlights? And I'll be asking our commission to take a vote.
Yes, actually, the community is supporting Mr. Poussin in his project.
Very good.
We held a community meeting.
Very good.
I'm gonna kill you. We held a community meeting, and myself and the Civic Association and Mr. Poussin, we came to these agreements that he will provide proper security and sanitation of the site at all times. Also, he will do a complimentary site use for a date in May for the Civic Association. If May is not available, then they would do another date that's mutually agreeable. Also, Mr. Poussin will come to ANC meetings, single member district meetings, in addition to single member district meetings, and share about the hiring process and things of that nature. It will not preclude him from hiring outside, but he will make it available to those groups first. And additionally, 10% discount will be given to all single member district residents. His establishment will have food, music, and we're hoping, or our intent is support him for a stipulated license.
Glad you could work that out. Very good, Commissioner.
We never opposed his project.
Very good.
He just wanted to have our support in advance of applying, so he never opposed it, but he really engaged the community, and he's been doing it for a while.
I'm very happy to hear that. Is there a motion?
Yes, I put the motion on the floor for my fellow commissioners to approve a stipulated license for HR 57 at Gallaudet Pavilion.
I second it. It's been moved and properly seconded that we support HR 57 and according to Commissioner Lewis's stipulations. Is there any discussion? Colleagues, are you ready for the question?
Yes.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? All right, Mr. Poussin, get ready. Get ready. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Excellent, excellent. We're gonna keep it moving. I need, let's see, Miss Kendra Blackett Zabinga to quickly come forward, introduce yourself, and tell us what's coming. Followed immediately by Mr. Paul Milstein, the mover and shaker Next to Douglas Jamal for Heck Warehouse Project. Ms. Blackett Dominga.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
As Commissioner said, my name is Kendra Blackett Dominga, and I'm the owner currently of Bikram Yoga Riverdale Park, but I'll be coming to Ivy City with Bikram Yoga Ivy City. I don't know if anybody has heard of Bikram Yoga.
Yes.
Or hot yoga. So we'll be planning to open up with Douglas Development in the summertime around June, right on Oakey Street behind the Mom's My Organic Market. So I'm going to leave some flyers about what yoga is, what Bikram yoga is, and some free class opportunities at the table back there with my contact information if anybody's interested.
We can't wait, thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, before Mr. Millstein, before you come, I'd like to ask Mr. Benjamin Bartley to stand very quickly. I want to offer a motion. We had a single member district meeting last month. Mr. Bartley has a proposal to bring more fresh fruits and vegetables to our community. He wants a letter of support so that he can set up alongside the Developing Family Center. I'm not into chaos and promoting on public space, but my constituents support that endeavor, and I support any endeavor that's going to bring more fresh food and health to my community. So I make a motion that we support Arcadia Organic Market with a letter of support. Is there a second?
I second it.
It's been moved and properly seconded that we support Arcadia Organic Market with a letter of support to occupy public space within Single Member District 5305. Colleagues, is there any discussion? Set up a food stand with fresh fruits and vegetables.
On a weekly basis. Thursdays, 4 to 6, beginning in May through the end of October.
Any other questions?
It's going to be right next to the Developing Family Center. That's the 1700 block.
801 17th Street.
Of I Street and 17th Street.
It's right next to 801 17th Street, right across from the Safeway.
In the alley.
Yes.
Yeah, we've been operating the DC area for 3 years. This season we have 18 stops in the district planned. Big green vehicles, they're kind of hard.
Yeah, you asked it. One other question?
Will your market take SNAP?
We accept SNAP, WIC checks, senior farmers market checks, the DC Produce Plus program vouchers, as well as cash and debit cards.
All right.
And it's half price if anybody uses SNAP, WIC checks, or the senior farmers market checks.
Oh, excellent. It's been moved and properly seconded. You ready for the question? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstaining? Motion passes. Thank you. Welcome to the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Mr. Millstein. Yes, ma'am.
He has fans everywhere I see.
I can't hear you. Very quickly. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, just quickly. Many people are unaware who are maybe not food. This is a great introduction for our community. I was formerly with the organization Eat Good, and that's why I was familiar with what services you have throughout the city. Many of our neighbors, many of our constituents, many of people are not familiar with them, but this is a great send for our neighborhood. So I hope that people will get introduced and begin to find that what we're going to be offering the community is tremendous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Paul Millstein, Douglas Development. I'll go quick and
Tell us
clarify.
about what happened on Wednesday. Thursday.
Thursday.
Quickly.
Okay,
Sorry.
Thursday, Nike had their grand opening at the Hex. Well, this is about the Hex warehouse on New York Avenue. So we're in the process of developing that, and there's many stages to it. Mom's was our first tenant to open, the grocery store. The second tenant is Nike on the corner of Fenwick and New York Avenue. It was a very successful opening. They had a great sales day. It was good energy. We hope to continue to build on that. Nike has committed, this is a community door store, which is a little bit different. There's only a few of them in the country, where they will reinvest in the community, where they actually send their coaches. Nike hires coaches and athletes and that's their sales staff, and hopefully someone's had an opportunity to go into the store, where they send their coaching staff into the communities, and they work with the ANC commissioners and the local schools, and they do tutoring, athletic events. There's going to be a huge event in June where they're going to partner with the Boys and Girls Club of Washington, D.C. We're working out a partnership with Gallaudet University to use their athletic facilities, and there'll be a huge field day on a Saturday where Nike's going to bring a lot of resources out, get all the kids and youth of the city, bring their coaches out. They're going to bring some sports celebrities out if possible, and just have a big, but that's just one example of a lot of things that Nike intends to do. I will tell you, the store opened quickly. It kind of snuck up on us fast. We got a lot of construction going on out there, and Nike's a big corporation, worldwide, of course, and they hired their staff, and there was a link made available. All of their applications are online, and what we're finding is that's becoming common practice where you have to apply online. So, you know, they made a commitment to hire precedent for district residents, number one. So what they ended up doing was they hired about 70 coaches. Out of the 70 coaches, 52 of them are district residents, which is 75%. Of that number, of the 52, 5 live in Ivy City. And that's just initially. So a lot of people say, well, they missed the opportunity. That's not the case. They hire staff, then they continue to hire additional staff. They build more shifts. They have the Georgetown store. They have the store in National Harbor. Staff shifts around. So there's a constant hiring effort going on. Same as Mom's Organic Market. It's never done. But what we're going to do is we're working with Commissioner Pettigay-Lewis and Commissioner Henderson to have a job fair June 6th, which will be on a Saturday, and we're partnering with Goodwill Industries. And we're gonna get it out well in advance. We're gonna have computers. We're gonna set it up at Hex in some of the vacant retail space, where we'll have computers available, and we'll have people to assist for anyone. We have to accept applications electronically, and we're gonna be accepting applications on behalf of Nike, Moms, Planet Fitness, some additional retailer that will be coming that I can't discuss yet tonight, but it's getting close. Plus Douglas Development, we'll be hiring positions. We're gonna open up the residential building in August. So the first 100 or so units will open in August, and then another month, another 100, and then another month, another 100. So we have all kinds of staffing needs from, excuse me, security. I never lose my voice. Security, maintenance, leasing, everything. So more information will come through the commission on that job 36. Yeah, that's my voice. The official matter. We're before the Zoning Commission on May 18th to modify our PUD for Hex, and the modification was discussed 6 months ago. We were in this room when we had a thought. This was, and it's hard to see this picture, but this was the previous site plan of Hex, this one right here, and what it allowed for was this large turnaround area here, and this is the residential entrance here. And when at the time we were working with Busboys and Poets, and we actually thought we were going to do a small little one-story building here for Busboys and Poets, and that's still a possibility, but they moved on to other locations and we weren't quite ready. But nevertheless, the idea was a good one. So we requested modifications to take out that turnaround for cars right in the front of the building and add a one-story building with a rooftop amenity so that we can do a Busboy and Poets or some other like user to provide outdoor dining and things like that. Yes, sir?
You can do an HR 57 right there.
Oh, okay, there you go. So, anyway, it's a minor modification of the PUD. It's 8,000 feet of additional commercial. We still have the parking and everything is the same. So that's before the commission on the 18th, and we'd like support for that. That's all I got.
Okay.
Got your voice.
Yes, sir.
On the job fair,
yes.
One of the things I found out at, fortunately, at the homeless shelter, like at 6 and I,
yeah,
that's on Northeast and it's not, it's in Ward 6. But I found out that the men aren't computer literate.
Yep.
So when you have these job fairs, would it be some kind of pre-training or pre-literacy training to get so they can be available to apply for these jobs?
Okay, the way it's going to be set up for the residents, because it's a huge problem within the single member district, we're actually going to have people there who are able to put in the information.
Side by side.
Yeah.
We'll set up computers. We'll set up computers and we'll have staff there to help. So if you want to apply for a security position,